Welcome to this episode of Berkshire Now News Magazine, where we explore news and views from around the Berkshires. It has been reported that about 1.25 million people in the United States have contracted the Corona-19 virus, with just over 200,000 recoveries reported. Today, Sheriff Tom Bowler reveals his experiences while recovering from this insidious virus. We will also talk about his reaction to the mandated release of 27 inmates from the Berkshire County Jail and House of Corrections. Sheriff Tom Bowler, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us today.
Glad to be here, Bruce.
I know you are. I mean, I understand that you have recently recovered from COVID-19. How serious a case did you have?
Well, it was, I guess the way I described it to others, the best way to describe it to others is if you take the flu, the normal flu, and you can multiply it by 5 or 10. Between
oh my goodness.
5 and 10. It's the same symptoms. I had the same symptoms that people would have with the normal flu. The body aches, and I should say severe body aches. They were severe body aches, which had a tendency, or which ended up settling right in my lower back. And then temperature that ranged, started on, my symptoms started on a Tuesday. I think it was the 24th of March. And on that Thursday morning, I was exhibiting, I had a slight temperature. It was elevated. It was just over 100. But with these symptoms, I decided to call the BMC hotline, and I gave those symptoms to them. And the other reason why I called is with this COVID-19, I know it has a tendency to really affect those that have an underlying medical condition. And I really don't have an underlying medical condition other than the fact that I only have one kidney. And I never realized I had one kidney until I was 36 years old. So since I've been since my 36, my age of 36, and finding out that I only have one kidney, I've always, whenever I get sick, I always get concerned and make sure that that kidney's not being affected in any way because it's the only one I have.
Right.
So they told me on that Thursday, the 29th, to come in based on my symptoms they described to them. I went for a test on the 29th, which was Thursday, and got the result, the positive test result, on Sunday. The 20, whatever the Sunday was. So then, with that being said, by Sunday, I was into the illness had just progressed. By Tuesday afternoon, I felt that things were not getting better. I was under some great care by my wife, who also tested positive during that week as well, but she had a very mild case of it. And my daughter as well. And they both tested positive, but they both had just a slight temperature, a little bit of body aches. Their symptoms were very, very shallow, very low. But they both lost their sense of taste and smell. And I didn't. But I had the body aches, obviously stomach issues, vomiting, fever that ranged it was just under 102 for about, it would fluctuate. It would go from anywhere from 100.4 up to 101.7 or 8 throughout the course of the day. And this was going on for like 7 days.
Oh my goodness.
So on that Tuesday, the following Tuesday, I went to the hospital. I knew I was dehydrated. I wanted to make sure my kidney was okay. So I went to, my wife dropped me off to the hospital. They checked me out. They did a CAT scan. They could see the COVID patches on my lungs, which basically is like a COVID pneumonia. And they gave me an IV. The doctor told me that my kidney was functioning good and fine, and my liver enzymes were good, and my breathing was okay. Even though I thought I was having some trouble breathing, they said my breathing was good. Um, so they released me. They sent me back home, and with some medication. And I had to wait till the following night to take the medication because this is when the vomiting started. 7 days into this, I started vomiting. So I had to wait till that got over with. And then I was pretty much off my feet the rest of the week in bed. And it wasn't until that following Sunday and Monday that I started getting the temperature had gone down and almost was it dissipated. And then it was on the kind of like the road to recovery. The biggest thing, Bruce, that I can say about this whole illness and sickness was the fatigue. It was, I just had no strength whatsoever and no energy whatsoever. And that was the worst part of it. And it took another 2.5, almost 3 weeks to get the energy level back up and to where I was feeling much better. And obviously the blood donors at the hospital contacted me and asked if I was interested, and I said absolutely. If there's a way that I can help other people through this ordeal, then I'm all for it. So that's what we did.
That's great. Now that, as I understand it, was not a normal blood donation, but it was a donation to harvest antibodies.
Antibodies, yes. Yep.
Wow. Is that any different than other blood donations?
Only that it's going through, there's a little machine next to you,
Mm-hmm.
and blood's going into the machine, and then they also have a little off of your stem or your port in your arm. They have another, there's a Y. Blood's going to the machine, and then blood's also accumulating in a little plastic bag, and that bag is then drained into vials, and they take a series of vials of the blood. So relatively easy process. It's just like donating blood. It takes about 35 to 40 minutes because you have to fill out some paperwork as well.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you back. And are you feeling 100% or still slightly under?
I'm 100% better. My energy level is back. I feel much better. My wife is still concerned. She didn't want me to go back to work right away, but I came to work yesterday full time. And I will say this, that by the time I got through at 10 o'clock last night, working all day and then stuff I had going on at home, I was exhausted. I was tired. So yeah, I just got to take it easy, and we're back on track.
And your wife and daughter are still okay?
They're all good, except my wife still hasn't fully regained her sense of smell and taste. So it's been about 4.5 weeks for her with that sense of smell and taste gone. Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, Sheriff Bowler, is the recent release of, I believe it was 27 prisoners from the Berkshire County Jail and House of Corrections. Can you talk a little bit about that and what your experience with that is, and any details you can include about that?
Well, obviously, during this pandemic, it fueled some special interest groups to advocate on behalf of the incarcerated population. So these special interest groups obviously decided to take it as far up to the Supreme Court level. And there was a ruling, and I think it was April 3rd, while I was dealing with the illness, this all transpired. But there was a ruling, the SJC came down with a ruling to release individuals who met certain criteria. Some of that was to be nonviolent individuals, individuals that had a pre-existing illness, people that maybe were over the age of 60. And the reason behind all this was these special interest groups felt as though that prisons across the country and jails across the country were over-incarcerated, unsanitary, and lacked the medical care if someone were to get sick with COVID-19. And I took exception to that because, and I can only speak for my jail, my staff, and my community. I can't talk about what takes place out in Ohio or Michigan or California or New York, or even in the state prison system in Massachusetts. I can't talk about that. I can talk about my community and this jail here. So with those three categories, the over-incarceration, the unsanitary conditions, and the lack of medical care, it generated my op-ed, which I think you said you read the op-ed.
Yeah, that was published in the Berkshire Eagle on April 30th.
Yes, okay. So that clearly states, number one, that first of all, the assumption that we are over-incarcerated in Massachusetts is just totally false. We are 50th in the country when it comes to incarceration. Massachusetts is 50th in the country.
Dead last.
Dead last. They have dropped over the last decade, or probably the last several years, seven years, going back 7 years, based on criminal justice reform and based on bail reform. The state prison system has gone from anywhere from 16 to 15,000 inmates down to about 8,200 inmates. In the sheriff's department, the sheriffs across the Commonwealth, there's 14 sheriffs and 13 of us have facilities, correctional facilities. And we are just under, right around 7,500 totally combined inmates. So
for the entire state.
Yes, entire state. So we are at a capacity of 28% right now. And I'll give you, for instance, 10 years ago when I ran for office of sheriff in 2010, the inmate population here was over 400 inmates. As of March 25th or March 23rd, we had 195 inmates here, okay? 195. 1 month later, by April 21st, we were down to 147 or 150. And those releases were based on the COVID-19. So I became a little irritated when here in Berkshire County, especially with my facility, we do a great job when it comes to care and custody, in my opinion. We have been accredited by the American Correctional Association. We've been accredited by the federal government with PREA, and we've been accredited with the National Commission of Correctional Healthcare. And so I know the capabilities of this facility and the people here and the staff here. I have a fantastic and wonderful, very, very talented staff in this facility. I know for a fact that we weren't over incarcerated here. And always keep in mind one thing. We don't have control who comes here. Everybody who comes here, it's not someone we go in and we grab them off the street and bring them in. They come here via the courthouse. So it's someone commits a crime, they're arrested, district attorney's office does the case, they go to the arraignment, and it's the courthouse who sends people here, either on a pretrial basis or on a sentence basis. So we have no say who comes here and who doesn't. The other thing about the lack of the fact that we not only do we have a lack of inmates here, but we have it's very, very sanitary. If you were to walk in, and I invite you up for a tour anytime, Bruce, if you came up here for a tour, you would find it hard to believe that this facility was built almost 20 years ago in 2001. It's in fantastic condition, and that's because the people who work here take pride in the place that they're employed by, and really do a wonderful job maintaining this facility. It's clean, and the inmates here are dealt with humanity and dignity. The other thing about the lack of medical care is really upsets me because I have an extraordinary staff of clinicians here. And we have a doctor, we have a director of nursing, I have a medical authority. She has been in this business for over 20 years. And that National Commission of Correctional Healthcare that I discussed, that we're accredited by, She is an auditor with them. So she travels around the country and audits other facilities, such as ours, when it comes to the medical portion of it. And we just have some great, experienced and talented people that are here. My director of nursing, 34 years of nursing, 10 of them in the emergency room. These individuals get very, very good care here when it comes to their medical condition. Minus the COVID-19, anyone who has a medical condition is seen by our staff, and if need be, would go to the hospital. We send people to the hospital all the time. You know this because this past summer I had one guy escape from the hospital, and we spent 4 days looking for him. Right, Bruce?
Right.
So if we can't manage that care, then they go out to the hospital. If COVID-19 was to come into this facility, and I knock on wood and hope that it doesn't, if someone were so sick that they had to be hospitalized, we would take them to the hospital. But our staff is very, very talented and could manage the COVID-19 without a problem. Fortunately, and I keep knocking on wood, that's not the case right now. We don't have it here. And then the other thing that gets me upset is when you release someone from COVID-19 here and you're putting them out into the community. Well, as my op-ed says, we don't just open up our doors and let people, let the inmates walk out after they pay their debt to society, okay? We spend a lot of time preparing these individuals for reintegration, okay? We're making sure that we've addressed every issue that they had while they're in here. We deal with their educational challenges. We deal with their mental health challenges. We deal with their medical challenges. We deal with their addiction challenges. All these things are right here at their fingertips, 365 days a year, okay? It's right here. When you release somebody based on the COVID-19, so to speak, because they feel as though there are certain individuals who feel as though this is a dangerous place. You just took somebody out of this environment where all the services were at their fingertips. And when you have the hearing, there's a defense attorney, there's a district attorney or an ADA from the DA's office that's represented there, and the judge, okay? And as soon as the judge hears the defense side and then the DA side, that judge he or she makes a decision. And when that decision is made, it's forthwith. That means when they're done in the hearing in the courtroom, it is done. Whatever was decided is done. If they're decided to stay incarcerated, well, then they're transported back to us. If it was decided by a judge that they were to be released, well, forthwith means right then and there. Now they walk out of the courtroom, they're back out into the community. Did not allow us to prepare any service plans or to have that smooth handoff transition into the community where we could provide for them the continuation of their services, okay? When they leave our facility, they have a residential plan, they have an employment plan, they have a service plan, they have a treatment plan. All these things are in place for these individuals. That's a huge benefit for them. When they are released on this COVID-19 from the courthouse, all those services are gone, they're out on their own. They're going into a community that's surging with the pandemic, okay? The reason why they're with us to begin with is because they couldn't follow the rules of society, okay? So punitive measures had to be put in place and they were placed in our custody, in our care, in our custody. When you're released from jail, all those services are not there. And do you think that our inmates are going to follow the CDC rules and the Department of Public Health standards and protocols on their own? No, they're not. Those were the concerns with us. And that's what's generated the op-ed and some of the other articles that have been made public. We think the inmates are much safer here than out into the community. And because of some of these individuals' crimes that they've committed, we also feel the community is much safer with those individuals behind our walls.
Yeah, it's a dilemma, isn't it? Now, I know in other states where they have released prisoners prematurely, that they outfit them with an ankle monitor, and then confine them to their home so that they have to follow the quarantine rules. Otherwise, they get alerted to whoever the authorities are that they're responsible for, and that gets taken care of. Could that have helped in this situation?
Well, I don't know if any of the people that were released were under any conditions of wearing a monitor. I don't know if probation ordered that or not. But what bothers me is there a need to do that when you have a national shelter in place? You're asking people to go check on these individuals. In other words, someone from probation now has to go out and check on these individuals to make sure that they're following the rules and regulations of their probation or their release. That's the whole thing of the COVID-19 protocols, is not to have contact with other people, the shelter in place. Okay. There was talk and there was reference about, moving inmates from one facility to the next. There was a conversation, I had a conversation with the district attorney about bringing inmates from the state prison facilities back here to our facility. Now, we do that anyways with step-down programs. We will take inmates who have less than 24 months on their time, the non-violent inmates that are in state prison. Violent inmates, it's 16 months or less. But we'll bring them back here, and we will provide them with a service plan, a reentry plan, an employment, plan and residential plan. Those are the things we do. That's what we do. We do reintegration back into the community. So we do that already. But with COVID-19, I don't want to bring people from the state prison system and transfer them back down here when there's a national shelter in place. You're taking them from one area that could be contaminated. And I will say this, and it's nothing against the state prison system, but they had more issues with COVID-19 than I do. I certainly don't want those inmates back down here in my facility. Okay, so you want to keep people isolated. You want to keep people from contaminating other people as well. That's why, in our opinion, as far as these releases go, the inmates are much safer here. They have all the benefits and resources at their fingertips here. When they're released out into the community without a good service plan and a smooth handoff with a continuation of services, that's a recipe for disaster. You're going to have people reoffend, and we already have. We've had 3 of these individuals who've been released reoffend. One came in yesterday, and he's sick. We had to test him yesterday. We're waiting for the results. I'm hoping he does not have COVID-19, because that just defeats everything we've been trying to accomplish here. That's why, in my opinion, too many people rushed and moved too fast without thinking about the ramifications of all these mass releases of incarcerated individuals. They're safe here. They go out into the community. They contract, they're able to contract the disease, rearrest, and come back in. Now they've just contaminated the police officers again, and then they're going to come in here and contaminate us. Now, our guys are working very diligently with the inmate staff to keep this place clean and COVID-free, and hope to go home every single night to their families without any worry of contracting the COVID. Now that we have people released and now they're being offended and coming back in here, it's just, the odds are going to be against us at some point.
Now, so how long a period was it between when they were released and when they came back, this one sick individual?
That individual was released on late March 26th or so. And it was prior to the SJC ruling, but he was released based as his attorney brought forward to the court the COVID. He was getting released because of the COVID-19. So he was released and he's rearrested. And I think what we have to look at are some of the charges. What irritates me or has me upset is there are some serious charges with these individuals that have been released. Now, I understand they've only been charged. and they've been accused of this, and they have not been found guilty of it. But still, they are dangerous individuals, and they've committed some dangerous crimes. And to have them out into the community on these charges, it's a recipe for disaster.
That brings up another question I have then. So there's inmates that have not been sentenced. Have they been tried?
No.
Okay, so they haven't been tried. They're awaiting trial.
All the people that have been released has been pre-trial status. They've been waiting for trial.
Understood. Okay. So that brings up the question I have is from your experience then, is the court system lagging behind because of the coronavirus situation?
Well, I know everyone has their challenges. I know the court system technically is shut down, except for emergencies. I mean, we have been in contact with judge and clerks, with the judges and some clerks. But I know there's some challenges on their part. I just don't understand taking somebody who has an assault and battery domestic and 209A violation, okay? That's someone who's assaulted somebody else, okay? That person should not be back out into the community just because of COVID-19. Somebody who has been charged with strangulation or suffocation or kidnapping or trafficking in cocaine and heroin. These are violent individuals. And if people who don't think that trafficking in drugs is violent, then go to any DOA, that's dead on arrival. Go to any call where someone has overdosed and that person is deceased. And you as an officer get to that scene and you see what that scene is like. It's a violent crime. To have somebody overdose with the needle still stuck in their arm or wherever they injected themselves, that's a violent crime. These are people that should not only are we dealing with a COVID-19 pandemic, Bruce, we're dealing with an opiate epidemic for the last 5 years. That is still there. It hasn't stopped. We still have an opiate epidemic. And for district attorneys across the Commonwealth and across the country to be very laxed on these drug trafficking and distribution charges, it's mind-boggling to me, because those are the individuals who are selling to the people, the public, who are overdosing and dying. Those are the individuals that should be behind bars and stay behind bars. We've had, since this COVID-19 release, we've had 3 people, two people, I think, 2 or 3 individuals relapse and overdose. Those are the things we're avoiding. We know this is going to happen. As sheriffs, when we saw this move by special interest groups and the CPCS and some of the district attorneys across the country to push for mass incarceration, the release of these, mass release of these individuals because of COVID-19, we knew this was going to be a recipe for disaster. You cannot send people who have treatment programs right at their fingertips. They're in a clean environment, okay? Be sent back out into the community that's surging in COVID-19, and it's also, they have the drug activity or the addiction problem they have right at their fingertips again. This is definitely going to happen. We are going to have more overdoses from guys who get released, and we're going to have more guys who are going to reoffend and commit crimes that have been released.
Well, you know, if you think about it, it's just like culture shock. I mean, if you're out in the community and you commit a crime and you go to jail now, that's a culture shock.
Yep.
And when you come out of jail without the training that you provide, that's another culture shock. I mean, it may be too much for somebody to be able to contend with it.
Now, we deal with the Breen Center on a daily basis. The Breen Center has been absolutely fantastic through this COVID-19 and helping us out, trying to set up some of these programs for individuals or getting these individuals in contact with the Breen Center so that they can continue their services. In my opinion, we shouldn't have to do this. And if you have a district attorney who says that We've worked very, very diligent and very, very hard at putting the most dangerous people in jail in this community. If the most dangerous people are in the community right now, then why are these people getting released? If they're the most dangerous, then why are they being released? I've been protecting this community for 35 years, okay? 35 years. I started as a police officer in 1985. 1989, I became a detective. For the next 19 and a half years, I was a detective on major cases. And then 2010, I ran for the office of sheriff. So I've been in this for 35 years. I've been a sheriff for 10 years. I think I know public safety, and I think I know this community very, very well when it comes to violent criminal offenders and when it comes to those who are in need of treatment for addictions. For 35 years, I've been dealing with people who have been addicted to drugs for most of their lives. We know what's best for these people. We know what's best, and we can foresee what's going to happen. I can tell you right now, with this COVID-19, the way the economy is going right now, and because we're dealing with this challenge of COVID-19, the economy, the unemployment status, the loss of jobs, crime is going to go through the roof. So aren't the drug sales, and so aren't the overdoses. It's only a matter of time.
I believe that's very possible. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, and people have mentioned this to me, with all these people wandering around wearing masks, have there been any increase in crime, or has crime gone down, or are you aware of any statistics for Berkshire County?
I don't know if there's there's something with the police department would have to tell you as far as the crimes going up. I know that we got 5 new arrivals yesterday. So, I've seen this before. I can tell you in 35 years, I've watched crime go up, and I've watched crime go down, and then go back up again, and then go back down. And I just have a funny feeling with everything that's going on, it's going to go back up. So my opinion is if you have somebody that's incarcerated, and we don't have people in here for simple possession of drugs anymore. The people that are in here are people that should be here. They've been held, the majority of them are being held on dangerousness hearings. They're violent individuals. And if that's the case, then none of these individuals should be getting released. And what bothers me is during this period of COVID-19, you have a tremendous amount of special interest groups that are advocating for the incarcerated population. And I get it. I understand it. And you have district attorneys advocating for your incarcerated population. Who's advocating for the victims? The people who have been victimized by these same people that are incarcerated. Who's advocating for them? Nobody. Well, I'm trying to advocate for them. I'm trying to be their voice. The people that I've seen in the last month that have been released here in Berkshire County should still be behind bars based on their violent criminal history.
Thank you for your time, Tom. I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
It looks like you're wearing a hazmat suit and looks like you have a mask under your chin.
No, it's just a button-down shirt and tie, Bruce. I just took the tie off, and I have my mask on. Every employee here is masked. Every inmate here is masked. Every inmate in this facility has their own cell. Every inmate has enough hygiene resources. They have their own cell. They have their own sink. They have their own toilet. They have their own soap. They have their. They do share the showers. There's only 4 showers in each housing unit, but they are very vigilant about keeping themselves COVID-free, as well as the inmates are with this entire facility. So everyone here, when you walk through the doors of our jail, everyone inside has a mask on.
My apologies to your tailor.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, thank you so much, Sheriff Tom Bowler. We really appreciate your time today.
Anytime, Bruce. If there's anything else you want to talk about, just that's happening in the community down the road, just give me a call and we'll definitely hook up again.
Thank you so much.
All right, Bruce. You be safe.
One of the many programs the Sheriff's Office provides to the inmates is a greenhouse. The Sheriff told me that so far the inmates have grown more than 5,000 heads of lettuce that have been donated to various nonprofit organizations that provide food for the needy in Berkshire County. Many of us under quarantine have found activities to keep us busy and sane. Kids are no exception. Here are a few drawings and art projects my grandchildren have created. Until next time, stay safe and strong.